Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to a glorious sunny day over here in Southern California. It's a little chilly, but hey, it is fall officially. If this is your first time joining us, hello, my name is Sadie Uribe, and I'm the media producer for Los Angeles Regional SBDC. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LASBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicated to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. So on that note, I am going to say hello to my favorite gal on Wednesday mornings. I think just my favorite gal in general, Lori, but that'll be our secret, us and our audience over here.
I bet you say that to all the advisors. Sadie, it reminds me of something else. So sometimes, okay, yeah, you guys are gonna go, oh my God, and roll your eyes with this. But sometimes I like playing with I can't say the word SIRI because if I say it, you know what's gonna happen right now, right? And so, have you ever, and you can tell me in the chat, be honest, if you ever did this, have you ever said SIRI, I love you? And so it's hilarious, the answers. And what you said just reminded me. One time she answered, I bet you say that to all your phones. Okay, sorry, that reminded me of that. Hello, everybody. I see all the wonderful frequent flyers in the chat. Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. You know what? We're getting really close to the end of the year, guys. When did that happen? Where did the year go? That is like an answer I don't know, and I don't think you can answer either. But with no further ado, let's get started with where we are right now today. So, speaking of webinars, this is my lineup. Sadie's going to put not only the lineup for November, but all in December. I went ahead and scheduled and I jam-packed all of the webinars in the month and December, even though it's a short month in both of them, just because I know during the holidays, sometimes people actually have more time and want to see the webinars and the ones you didn't get a chance to see because they're not recorded. So I've jammed them all in there. So check that out. Actually, I didn't take out today. So today's Janise, but next week, guys, I was trying to schedule a guest and right before the holidays. I don't like to do that because some of you guys go on vacation, etc. It's not a full house. So what I decided after a couple guests couldn't be there because of the holiday, I said, you know what? We're going to have a special Thanksgiving show, chat with Lori. We'll talk for 10 minutes or for the entire time. You kind of decide. If there's anything you want to talk about, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just put questions and chats. And I actually was thinking, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. And those who know me, my frequent flyers. So I have started jotting notes, okay, my philosophical discussions, as I can't remember which one of you always comment on my philosophical discussions. So I started thinking, well, you know what? What did I learn throughout the year? And so I wrote down my philosophical thoughts about business and life. And if you don't ask questions, I'm going to read them. So that's the scary part. If you don't ask a question, you're going to have to hear Lori's philosophical thoughts about business and life on what I feel as a reflection of this year. On Lori, speaking of Lori's Corner, what I want to do is just mention a few things. We're going to be more technical in Lori's Corner today. So these are year-end actions that you may need to take depending on your legal structure, etc. And there's just a list of different things to consider, plus at the end, just another note about something. So if you are taxed, notice I said the word taxed as an S corp, or legally registered as an S corp. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, take my sole prop, LLC, S corp, which one or why, or reach out to me. So if any of these words you don't understand, you just reach out to me. So if you are taxed as an S corp or you are legally structured as an S corp before year end, December 31st, right? You have to take what is called a reasonable salary if you're profitable, and this needs to be in the form of a W-2. As I've expressed many times, Too many people are jumping on the bandwagon, filling out the 2553 that are LLCs to be taxed as an S corp when it really was not a good idea. It actually is costing them more than saving. But nevertheless, here you are, and here you are for 5 years because that's what you have to commit to. So what they're also doing is not realizing that this takes many additional admin steps. So I had somebody the other day trying in an email to ask me a question on whether they had to take a W-2 salary. Oh, no, no, guys. This means you really need to meet with your tax preparer before year end. They have to look at your net profit as an estimate. They'll take about 50 to 60% as a reasonable salary, which then has to be written as a W-2. If you don't, you can get hit with an underpayment penalty, and all profits are taxed as a W-2. No bueno, okay? So if you need to look into it and see if you're taxed as an S corp, you need to be aware of this step. Now, if you're any individual or business, so what, sole prop LLC, what have you, and even an S corp, I just spoke about it, you need to see if you have paid in enough on your quarterly payments to avoid an underpayment penalty. And how this works, guys, it's a math. All companies and individuals across the board, you either have to pay in, I'm going to go slow so you can follow me, 90% of what you owe this year, or if you don't know what you owe this year, 100% of what you owed last year. Okay. That's the number you have to pay in order to not have an underpayment penalty. We're seeing a couple people get IRS letters with underpayment penalty, coming through the SBDC. So it's something to be thought about. Speaking of letters, I mentioned this, I think, a couple weeks ago. Just a shout out if you get one of these letters. Office of Finance is continuing to do audits of those who have an address in the LA City, LA County area and do not have a business license, which they call BTRC, and they are auditing and sending out nasty letters with a past due amount. The past due amount is just an estimate, okay? I don't even know, I probably in the last 3 weeks got at least 10 clients with these letters at this point in time. So if you have an LA address that is registered on your statement of information, if you're registered with the Secretary of State or through your tax return, sole prop, be noting whether or not you have this. Now, keep in mind, you have to fill out a document by February to show the amount of revenue to take advantage of the under 100,000 exemption. But please know that they're sending out letters. They're sending out letters. So be aware of this and reach out to me if you have any questions. And when people get these letters, because I get this statement that says, and this is when it scares me, people say, well, I opened an LLC, but I didn't do anything. I'm like, whoa, whoa. This isn't like I started a Facebook account, but I didn't post. No, guys, it's not like that. Once you register, you are responsible for a lot of different things. And one of them is obviously the Office of Finance, if you are in that area. Business license across the board. It's just that the LA City County area is more aggressive in auditing, but all LLCs must file a tax return. So if you have no transactions, you have to file what is called a zero return. So what happens is it compounds. People started an LLC, they didn't pay the 800. They unfortunately were also in the LA City County and didn't have a business license. They get hit and audited with the business license, and then that could trigger the franchise tax board to notice that you also didn't pay your 800, maybe not your statement of information, and then you have to file past tax returns. It's a nightmare, and I'm seeing a lot of it. So that's a shout out. If anything is something that you may be aware of, concerned of, Sadie will put how to get in touch with me so you can contact me. It's just when I saw one or two, I didn't make mention, but now I'm seeing so many, I feel like it needs to be announced to my pals here in case any of you are experiencing this or need to know more about it. Okay, that was my little bit of insights for today. Now, I'm very, very excited to welcome our guest today. Janise Graham is a business strategist and owner of Leaving in Style. Leaving in Style is a boutique business strategy and succession planning firm dedicated to helping business owners build companies that thrive beyond their leadership. Through a combination of exit planning, value acceleration, and leadership development, we empower entrepreneurs to protect what they've built. maximize value, and leave a lasting legacy on their own terms. Janise, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm excited to have you on the show, and there is absolutely so much to unpack in everything I even just read, okay? Because
Yeah.
I can tell that you're looking at business from many different angles. Not sure of all the angles, but I can tell from just the copy and all these letters you have to have for your name that you've got some experience under your belt, right? And interestingly, it's been something I've probably been saying for a couple years. My audience always knows, okay, yeah, Laura, you've been saying this for a year or so. But I am a firm believer in intelligence. I like intelligence, but what has become real important to me in the last couple years, more so than anything, is wisdom. And I get this intuitive belief that today we're going to get from you intelligence and wisdom. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well,
So let's start out by when you were getting out of school, did you have a belief that you would be doing what you're doing now? I always like asking that question, and less than 1% actually pursued what they always wanted to do, but they found life to be not a straight line, but a path of curves that led to who they are and what they know, and in fact, their wisdom. So, give us a little bit of your life trajectory of where you intended to go and how you ended up where you are today.
awesome. Well, my that is so funny. I have to laugh because it's truly been a full circle. When I went to school the first time around, I went to school to be a menswear buyer. I wanted to be a seamstress.
Menswear buyer.
I went to fashion school, so my first degree is actually in fashion.
Well, you look very fashionable, I would say. You
Thank
definitely have
you.
style there. That's where the leaving in style. That's where I thought that was another thing. I'm not, don't mean to cut you off and jump ahead, but I was like, that is a cool way of expressing, exit planning. Where in the world did she come up with that? I got the first answer. Please continue.
Yes, it was one of those journeys. As soon as I graduated from college, I called my dad and go, I don't want to do this. Back then, there was no Metrolink and there was no trains and all of those things. And I went to school in Long Beach, and all of the work for fashion was in downtown LA. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And there went the journey. But I have a history, even before going to school. I have a family connection to fashion. My mom was a model. She designed for a fashion troupe as a hobby. She worked at Xerox, her day job, but on the weekends and the evenings, she designed costumes for a fashion troupe, and we modeled as kids. And so I
Oh,
had
wow.
that was like a natural, easy slide into that space. And then I graduated and I'm like, these people are crazy.
I felt
Yeah.
that many times in my life. I can so much relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I, I like the business aspect of it. The degree I have in fashion merchandising was dealing with the business side of the fashion industry. So I've always loved business. That part was there, but this part was not there. I had no idea that I would find myself in this place and space. But through time and I was spent a couple of, well, about a decade in telecommunications before I went into financial services. But then I never told anyone I had a fashion degree. I just it didn't make sense. It meant nothing. Well, it meant something to me, but I just felt
Right.
like it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do that. And I never told anyone. And then I had a colleague that she's like, "Oh my God, Janice, I have a designer degree. I don't know what we're doing here." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I have a merchandising degree. What are we doing here?"
That is so funny.
You know,
Well, I have a degree, applied associates in science and biology. I was a lab technician when I was very young. I have a certification in neurolinguistic programming, and I talk about my degrees and my MBA and stuff. And I'm like, I think the other ones kind of made me who I am,
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's a foundation. You talk about the wisdom. It's all for a reason. It all happens for a reason, because when I got my business degree, actually, it wasn't very long ago. less than five
Awesome.
years ago, but I was already in business. I've been in business 25 years, and that was really more of a passion project
Yeah.
per se. But the whole journey of being in business, absolutely not. This was not on my when I grow up card.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so true. I went for my MBA later in life as well, having had my company for decades, because I started at 25 with my own company. But I think you learn so much more once you've already been in business. And also, my favorite word that I've picked up that I'm using on a daily basis is seems. You also have discernment about what you're learning in school that's true and what's not, because I would maybe someone could say arrogantly or with intelligence, I'm not sure. Going to college, I went to Pepperdine, I went to, one of the good business schools. So I'm not saying anything against Pepperdine, but I would look at the professors and go, they couldn't run a business if their life depended on it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's all textbook. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you apply things different. The assignments were a lot more fun for me because
Yeah.
I got to do what it's like you have to create an assignment. I did mine around business. I did it around women in business. I did it around exit. So when you have a little bit under the belt, you actually know where you want to go and what it's going to look like on the other side.
Yep, yep, you do. So
Yeah.
this leads us perfectly. So you're gonna love this. I am going to go through each one of your letters. We're gonna pick one. I'm going in order, and you're gonna tell us what does it mean and what does that mean you can do for us. Okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Awesome.
You're gonna tell us what it means, where you got it, why you got it, everything about it. So we're gonna start, and I'm just gonna go in order. So the
Okay.
first letters, and Sadie, if you could put these in the chat so people can physically see them. C as in cat, E as in elephant, P as in Paul, and A as in Anthony. So CEPA. What is it? What does it do? Tell us all about it.
As we say on Sesame Street, it's a SEPA.
Today's been brought to you by the word SEPA. I always love that, man. I
Exactly.
love that. I still do that. Okay. Yes.
SEPA, SEPA, SEPA. So
What's
SEPA
a SEPA?
A CEPA is a certified exit planning advisor.
Oh, and we're not talking about leaving life, right? We're not in hospice here.
No, no, we're exiting business,
Okay.
either by choice or by chance, but we are exiting our businesses.
Yeah. So tell us about that. What kind of degree, what kind of certification, what do you learn? And let's just delve into this.
Absolutely. So CEPA is a certification that is I don't know how you say it. It's put on by the Exit Planning Institute, which
Okay.
the Exit Planning Institute is this organization that does just that. They study exit, business exit. They have amazing statistics. They do studies in different states and they collaborate with different organizations to really understand all of the aspects of exit planning. And in order to get it to obtain a CEPA, you have to go through a course. And I went kicking and screaming. I didn't want to do it. I was like, I don't need another certification. I just don't. But I would get up and I would speak, and there would be these people in the audience. Well, is she a SEPA? Are you a SEPA? And it wasn't business owners. It's always the advisors.
Isn't that so true? Yes. Yes.
You,
Oh
you
my
know,
God. There's so many truths in what
Oh
you're
my
saying I can
goodness. I've
relate
been
to.
doing this for how long? I need a
Yeah.
CEPA.
Yeah.
But however, I will say it was one of the best certifications. We'll talk about the others, but this was one of the best decisions. And I say that because with that certification, it's not just one advisors or a profession that can obtain it. They have about 19 different professions that get the CEPA. So bankers get them, mergers and acquisitions, business brokers, wealth managers, financial advisors, insurance professionals, anyone who, even life coaches that work with
Yeah. Yes.
business owners, they sell a business for $30 million and don't know what to do with themselves.
Right. Right.
So they're all the commonalities that they're all advisors to business owners. And the reason I say it's one of the best is because they have a real push, which I love and I believe in, is in collaboration. We're not all knowing. Engage, help your business owners, bring in the right people, have that conversation and help them. And so now I feel like I have this entire team across the country and I think into Canada even of collaborators and listening to what a business owner needs to go. Let me make a call. We have I think it's like a admin, or I don't know what they called it. I forgot the title of Emily, but I call her a concierge because it's like I can call and go, Emily, I need a mergers and acquisitions person in Boston.
Oh, that is really important. So on this topic, before we go into any others, I've got a couple thoughts that I just want to get your intake on. A couple thoughts on it. I've been around exit strategies for some time being a CFO in companies. It could be just a partner exiting the company, the company continuity, but somebody's leaving the company, or a lot of times family businesses. And unfortunately, I would say the bulk have not been by choice, so I've been around that as well. This is just a Lori noticing, and once again, just to get your thoughts on this. I wrote an article because I write, and I used to write articles for a lot of the magazines back in the day. And I remember writing this article that I said, this is a good 15, 20 years ago, okay, that business models were like sand castles. A sand castle gets washed away by the end of the day. What
Yes,
prompted that? Maybe it was about 15 years ago. What prompted that is I started noting that the durability of a business model, sandcastle, to go through several generations got to the point where you're friggin' lucky if it's through your lifetime, right? And
right.
I was just really questioning the validity that business models were going to last for that time. My point was not from an exit strategy, from more of a constant engagement in what's happening then and now. But do you notice that exit strategies seem to have a shorter time span than they would in family generations? Or what are you noticing about just the need and reason for exit strategies today that you maybe noticed from different 20 years ago?
So when you say shorter, are you thinking family business, corporation?
All of them, they just don't have so much changes within the industry, technology, economy, financially, that there's not this long-term passing on continuity type situation where my grandpa had it, my grandpa. I'm like, well,
Ah,
I had the business for 3 years and it's no
got it.
longer feasible or viable. So that's what I mean by timing. Castles, they just don't last like they used to.
Yeah.
Meaning exit strategy is now a more proactive choice than
Right.
a just sit back and wait.
Right, right, exactly. And well, this is what I've seen. Of course, you have exit strategy, which is very different, and we see in technology. And if you create an app, they're already planning to sell it. They want to
Yeah.
sell it that's a different type of exit strategy. But when it comes to business, what what I see, especially in small business, is that a lot of small business owners think, want, hope that their children will take over.
Right. Oh, yes. Let's talk
And
about this.
right, because there have been years of third generation, fill in the blank, and now we have a generation of people that are like, I don't want to work as hard as you.
Yeah. Or
And
I'm not interested in it.
I'm not interested in it. Absolutely. I had a conversation with a business owner the other night, and she was just like, I was hoping my son would take over. He's a CPA, he can do this, but he's like, I'm not an engineer. And she said, but you have the bones, you speak the language of business. He goes, Mom, I don't want to work as hard as you and Dad had worked. And I'm hearing that more than anything as far as those generational family
Interesting.
type businesses. Those who aren't looking at family to take over are oftentimes engaging in conversations with private equity, which is
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah, totally different. I've been through a lot of those as well. No, I had a client the other day that waited and went way into his desired retirement, hoping that one kid was going to eventually want it and finally did not. So, it was definitely not going to happen in any way, shape, or form. Speaking of private investors, et cetera, going down a notch a little bit more to more the small company that's going through brokers. That's completely
Yes,
different than private equity, a whole different
correct.
world, different
It's different.
representation, different
Right.
everything. I'm just throwing out things that I see all the time. You know, I have seen people go through brokers and it work well. Not saying that it doesn't, but
Right.
often there is not a clear understanding on behalf of the seller, the company selling it, exactly what that means. That a lot of times I see things like, not saying this is across the board, it's more to have discernment when hiring people. They end up paying the broker a fee for what they did, but no one actually would have possibly ever bought that company because either it was financially fit or it was not transferable assets, meaning it was a service-based business. There was no contracts, there was nothing. So I do see a lot of challenges, and I'm going to add one more part so then you can take it from this
Sure.
with these smaller companies trying to sell through brokers. And what happens is a lot of times what I tell people, and it's a truism, possibly before going to a broker, see if one of your clients, one of your vendors, one of your customers may be interested in it or a portion of it, maybe just the referrals or things such as that. So there's this belief that I'm a very small service-based company and I'm going to get a equity firm to buy my company, and there's a it just does not equal each other. Can you chat on anywhere you want to go with? Because I said a mouthful there.
Absolutely. So first of all, here's the reality. Only 33% of small businesses actually sell.
Ah,
So what that means is that there are about 66% of people out there who think that they're going to sell.
yeah,
And as a small business, I'm sure the audience would agree, the majority of your money and your retirement and your vision goes into your business because you expect to get something on the back end.
yeah.
Well, if only 33% of you are going to get something on the back end, that's a problem.
Do the math. Yeah,
Do the math. So what you're speaking of is a strategic buyer. Build up a relationship. It may be a friendly competitor, and you may have a conversation or agreements. And even if something happens to me, I'll buy. You could buy my business. I have a couple of cybersecurity guys that are looking at that now. They're equally yoked. They have a very similar business. They have a very sincere concern for their families and their employees. And they're saying, hey, if something happens to me, I want this person to buy. If something happens to me, I want him to buy mine. So you can do that. You can have a strategic buyer and have that relationship. But even before that, before having that conversation or talking to a business broker, depending on the size of the business, if it's going to be a business broker or it's going to be mergers and acquisitions. But if speaking of business brokers, you want to make sure that the business is both attractive and ready.
yes,
So a lot of business owners will say, I have an amazing client base. Well, how many clients do you have? I have three. And they're
yeah.
all same industry. Okay, that's not amazing. The money might be good for you right now, but it is not very attractive to someone that's coming in because there's not enough diversity. You know,
Right.
and I'm going to go back to a second. Years ago, I was doing retirement planning. That's really how I got to where I am to now. And years ago, I was doing a 401k presentation. I would go out with the San Bernardino County rapid response team. So say if there's a major layoff, I would go out with that team and talk about 401ks. And I remember very clearly, see, this is all wisdom that comes along the way. I remember going out to a bottled water company that was closing because they lost that major contract with Costco. So you have a client base that is so heavy that they just wipe you out.
Yep, yep.
That is not attractive.
Nope. In banking, we call it concentration of receivables, and we don't bank concentration of receivables because they're way too risky. And what I always tell people, companies, if you only have a few main clients, that's when you got to kiss their you know what. And you
That's
have to
right.
make sure you have enough cash put away. It's not that, sometimes our small companies end up only having a few. It's just the way it is. Just
Yes.
understand your positioning, you know?
Exactly. If you know it is, there's nothing worse than thinking you have something that you don't have.
Oh my God, that's so true. Oh, Sadie, would you please put that in the chat? I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like profit, quart of milk. Everybody knows what I mean by quart of milk. Keep going.
Yes. So, when you're talking about having that conversation with the business broker, even thinking about it in the future and long term is not what it used to be when you had long-term planning. Long-term planning now is probably 3 to 5 years because of technology and everything that's changing so quickly. But as far as exit, we say 3 to 10 years. But the reality is that we don't. I mean, come on, we didn't have AI 4 years ago,
Right, right, right,
right? So things are changing so fast. But before talking to that business broker or considering selling, yes, a strategic buyer would be great. Now that we've decided that Lori's going to be my potential buyer, I'm going to be
mhm,
potential her potential buyer, you now need to make sure that the foundation and the structure of the business is in order. Because when it comes time to negotiating that the price that you want, you have to be realistic and understand that we're in an industry where maybe the factor is 5 times revenue or 3 times EBITDA, whatever it is,
right.
you have to know what that is and are you there? And if you are not there, that's a profit gap. That's actually a value gap. You have a gap. Maybe your business is valued at 1 times or 2 times. Well, that means you're leaving 3 times on the table. So take that time and knowing where you are and looking at how do I grow my business so that I am getting out of it what I really think I should get. So, looking at the factors and before going to a broker, because someone else is going to come, I'm going to come in and I want to bar. I'm like, oh, I see a bargain here. Lori doesn't know what she has. I'll take it. And then after the fact, she realizes I left money on the table.
Yeah.
If I
Oh my
had,
God, there's just so many directions. I'm like taking notes to remind myself because there's so many directions I want to go on this. This is awesome conversation, by the way. Whether you're starting out right now or you're in the succession planning, this is an awesome conversation. I want to go through I'm going to take it one at a time. Otherwise, I will lead you in the wrong pathway and all over the place. Transferability. This goes back to, the attractiveness of a broker. So many times, Janise, I see people not realize that even though the company is making good money for them, it is it could be a service-based business. They don't have any contracts that guarantee that customer is going to stay after the purchase.
right,
They're not a big company, so branding, they don't have that out there. People are going to buy just because of the brand. And they have great employees and teams, but you can't buy employees and teams, right? So I explained to him that's where a strategic buyer is best because it might fit the thing, but there's nothing that is going to be able to be transferred where, okay, I paid for this, I got it. It's like water through the buyer's hands. There's nothing, it's all too fluid. Okay, I want
right.
to take that, but I want to take another one and I'm putting two together, and then you go anywhere you want to go with that. So then what people hear me say this and they come to a conclusion that I disagree with wholeheartedly is service businesses are bad. But actually, what I've been telling people every week, service businesses are the ones I'm seeing profitable right now. The solopreneur, that's the most, solopreneur service businesses are the ones I'm seeing with the most profit, which leads me to the third. I'm going all over. So,
Sure.
feel free to repeat, to ask me to repeat any, is that I think it's really important, although planning, succession planning, I'm for that, you can tell, make money now. Don't
Right.
lose money and go in debt on this grounds that you're going to make money down the road unless you are a big VC firm and you're losing other people's money. So, a service business making money now, putting it into a 401 that just shuts down or passes some commission for referrals and never is able to sell it is part of the 66%, like you said, isn't a bad thing. Let's get out of our head this like sexy social media. And then I'm going to sell my company. I'm going to, no, let's look at reality here. Okay, I just dumped so much. Please go anywhere you'd like with that and with me wholeheartedly on anything I said. My audience is used to me.
That's funny. I love it. Actually, a lot of my clients are service-based
Yeah,
businesses. And they are lifestyle. I mean, some of them are lifestyle
yeah,
businesses, which means that it comfortably maintains your lifestyle. But then when you're talking about and looking at the future is great, but having that strategy and that plan today. So exit planning isn't really about you leaving tomorrow. It's about what you're doing today so that you can leave tomorrow. I always say that I'm a documentary person, so I've watched plenty of documentaries on the hikers of Mount Everest,
oh, yeah,
the old Great Everest story.
yeah,
And there's so often they have these Sherpas, they have these guides, they plan and they do other climbs. They go and they climb Mount Everest, they plant their flag, and they never make it off the mountain.
yeah. So true.
That is, that is not success. That is not even succession.
That's dead. Yeah.
You did it. Yeah, right, but you are still up there frozen. So
Yep.
the same thing in business, it's like you want to build a plan and make sure that it's working for you today
Yeah.
and not go, oh my gosh, and throw up your hands thinking about I have to exit. No, you just have to have the pebbles in place and making sure that what you want in the long term will ultimately be there, but you have to take care of today. And you have to do and make the most of what you can today, which is really business readiness. It's just being ready and making sure that everything you have the right team around you, you have the ideal employees, you have a client base and that you want or that's a part of your vision. It's a lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with a lifestyle business.
No, in fact, I like to have a lifestyle. I know people that have, bragging rights if you want them, but they have no life and they have no money. And by the way, before I go to this next topic, I want to add on to your wonderful example of the Mount Everest climbers and the having pebbles in place. So for many years, I was also a high altitude climber. I have friends that actually guided on Mount Everest as well. And one of the things that I would do is what's called wanding on the way up. You stick a basically a pole in the snow. So when you're in a whiteout, it helps you to get back down. That's your pebbles. Okay.
Right,
So
right, right, right.
wanding keeps you from being frozen at the top because during which I had relied on my wands to get down on a crevasse field. So yeah, there's some truth to that. But going back to the concept of getting it ready. Okay, here's another topic on the same subject, but another way of looking at it from this perspective I'd like to bring up and discuss. So many times, business owners do not have their proper documentation, their financials, their legal structures not in place. They didn't do it for years. They didn't set it up right. They didn't think it ever mattered. And then they get approached by something. It could be a bank, it could be an investor, it could all of a sudden have to be exit, it could be a partner, whatever. And they find that we didn't do, if we were our corporation, our minutes, and we have to. I've done this before, write 10 years of minutes, backing it up. We didn't have our financials in place. We switched software programs so much they don't follow. We didn't, and the numbers is going to matter historically so people can see the past. So
Right.
to me, and I'm going to let you comment on this because you're a backup if I'm right and a backup if I'm wrong. I always say, treat your numbers today like someone may be wanting to look at them tomorrow, even if you see yourself small, because having your paperwork in order is so important.
That this is true. And I always say that the business basics are the foundation of the business.
Yeah.
And not everyone goes into business to do business per se. And let me explain that.
Yeah.
If I'm an amazing plumber and I enjoy plumbing, I don't want to set up that paperwork. I don't even know about it.
Right.
Have no idea. So, learning and putting those plans in place and the entity structures, which you talked about on the front end, the LLCs, the S corp, the C corp, whatever the case may be, the entities can change in the future and may have to change based on the strategy that you have for exiting. But it's still having that trail. And when it comes to making money or losing money or not paying taxes, I always say taxes are not a bad thing. You just want to pay your fair share. You don't want to pay
Right.
someone else's.
Right.
But, having your taxes in order, not taking that loss because you don't want to pay taxes today does not make you very attractive to the bankers tomorrow.
No, it doesn't. And I talk about that a lot. I see people do that all the time. And if you're going to go for a bank for, and you're going to go for a substantial loan, it's not the time to show no profit for taxes. I mean, I get it. I'm an enrolled agent. I look to see how much I can, not pay, right? But you got to look at that in perspective as well. So you have a plan. You need a plan.
Absolutely. And so think about it. So we take this one step further and we say, I want to sell my business, but I have all these years of no profits, but I think it's worth
Yeah,
3 million, 10 million. That's not what your paperwork shows.
right.
That's, you have a whole different story. No, 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 wait, that's not what we really meant. But that's not what it shows.
And that paperwork's going to be official because that's, tax returns are the Bible in business. Internal financials to a degree, but even though it's not true, technically, there's a belief, well, people don't lie on their tax returns, so that's the authority. That's why banks use it and everything. But it is closer to the authority than your internal QuickBooks that you can just sit in a back room and do what you want or make mistakes. So it's so true. Those tax returns are going to matter in that time period when you're looking at that.
That's a part of when you're considering selling or considering that you don't have to be in the selling mode. You may be getting an SBA loan. You could be doing
Yeah.
something that requires that you have a business valuation. When you're getting that business valuation, those numbers are huge. It could be a deal breaker,
Yeah.
because you're not showing that you have a profit. I'm not profitable, but I want to take a loan as if I am. Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to buy a building. Well, you don't have a profit.
Yeah. And before I go on another question, I have to say, hello, audience. You know what you're hearing again? That you actually have to know your numbers. I know you don't like them, but I've talked with you a million times, guys. I teach them, they're easy to know. And just another person saying, you got to know your numbers. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, Janine, let's go into, I want to jump into something else you mentioned as a side note. Okay. I just want to, because it's once again one of those things I talk about that, hey, I got somebody else that can comment on it. You mentioned the 401k, right? You mentioned going to the water bottle company. But in regards to small companies, I get so many people that, first of all, should not be taxed as an S corp. It doesn't even make sense to do so. But I'm going to be getting social media again. The social media is out there. Oh, it's so great being S corp and everything. But what they fail to recognize, and I'm just trying to make this statement to people, even the solopreneur can have a SEP, an IRA, an individual 401 that is so powerful and can save more tax money than even
Yeah.
the S corp. I mean, combined, it's very powerful. But
Yes.
people are underestimating that when they're in employee, they get this, right? But when they're in the employer position, they don't recognize how much a savings, a retirement in their company can really benefit them. Can you comment on that a little bit for us?
I can comment on that a little bit. So here's the thing. Anything you can have in corporate America, you can have as a small business owner.
I love, okay, Sadie, anything you can have in corporate America, you can have a small business owner. Absolutely. How do you do that? Love that. Love that.
You can have it here. And okay, let me tell you this. I'm not a tax advisor. I don't play one on TV. Lori's your girl. But everything that we're talking about is based on tax code. When we talk 401k, that's Internal Revenue Code 401k.
Yep.
So it is a part of the tax code. The tax code, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, but the tax code for small is written for small business owners to take advantage of. It's
It
not
is, and it keeps getting better and better. They keep improving the ability to have these type of vehicles and use them for tax incentive. You're absolutely right.
it. So the only thing you're doing is you're taking advantage of a legal tool that was put in place for you.
Yeah.
So, you could have a healthcare plan, you can have a dental plan, a vision plan, you can have all kinds of even if you don't want, okay, I don't want to go too deep, but with a 401k, you have a certain amount of money that you can set aside as a participant in that 401k. Now, if you were a business owner with employees, that you could put some in there, you can't be the top dog in that 401k.
Right, right.
There are other retirement plans like this SEP. There are different retirement plans that are available for you to maximize and put in monies that will best support your lifestyle.
Yep, yep. And you know
That's
what I absolutely love, because we have a lot of people that don't have employees, the solopreneur, the individual 401k. I can maximize, in this case, an S corp, a W-2, but I can maximize the amount Lori puts in, then the company matches.
matches
And
it.
I
That's
don't have to worry about providing that same opportunity for an employee because there is none. So I get to max out what financially my financial support, and that is a completely 100% legal way of writing down to where your tax bracket just went. crash down at the bottom from where you are. Very powerful, very powerful.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So, there's a lot of options out there for you to set up. You're starting to make money and you want to be able to, take care of you because ultimately who else is going to take care of you?
I always have lived with that theory. And the other thing I always try to, and I didn't get this when I was younger, Janice, I did not get this. I had this belief, well, I don't have enough money to put away to a retirement, right? But
Right.
then when I learned the math, I was like, wait a minute, even if I take a small chunk like 500, there's a math that goes in it. It's not a dollar per dollar, but it might mean I'm making up this number, guys. It's not a true number. Maybe that means I'm 50 less I pay to the tax,
Right.
or maybe 100 less. So, it's like, okay, if I can get 400 more, I'm not getting 500 to put away in
Right.
my fictitious numbers. 100 would go to the IRS. I'm only getting 400 to put away to save the 100. And you can start looking at the math and seeing that, wait, if I just up it a little bit, that's a little less I don't have to pay. And I do a calculation and say, okay, looks like I'm going to owe $4,000. Well, how much would I have to put away to wipe away two of that? How much would that's the analogy, not, well, I didn't make enough. And then you write a check to the IRS. I'd rather write a check to me.
That's it right there. That's the part. And that's what I talk to, small bit. I don't do a lot of I do very little retirement planning anymore. I do still I'm in that space. I'm still a part of my organization, my association and very, very active. But I bring in some of my colleagues that like really get excited about it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I get excited about the exit piece. But that is exactly what we take. So you have a choice. You have, let's put it this way, you have three options as to where that money goes. It can go to you, it can go to the IRS, or it can go to charity. Now you have to pick two. Which two do you pick? And they go, well, I want it to come to me. No, you have to pick two.
Yeah.
So, there are codes out there that give you incentives to give to community. But there's also that piece that says take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if there is one message that I've always been this way in my life. I've been a firm believer in this, and that is take care of you is not selfish. It's
No.
being able to take care of yourself. I grew up in the country, and we would have the roads just completely plowed over, and there was no one to take care of us but our own household. And I would watch the squirrels put the nuts away, and if they didn't have food. And so I always saw that, take the actions to take care of yourself. And if you can't, someone will help you, but first do everything you can to not have to ask for that. And so I think that's a really good foundation, especially now, and it applies to all aspects of life, including retirement planning to get lower taxes.
Absolutely. The reality is that as you grow your business, some of you may be solopreneurs, some of you may have employees, someone may be listening that has 100 employees, whatever the case may be. When you put in a retirement plan, a 401k plan, per se, that is something that allows for the employees to help take care of themselves.
Hmm.
We live in a lovely state that is very employee friendly and that he takes care of employees and requires that if you have a plan in place like that, that the person that benefits most are the employees.
Right,
Otherwise, it's going to be considered top heavy, so to speak, and you can
right.
be heavily penalized. There's no law in any state that I know of that says we have to take care of that business owner because they've done such a great job in having all of these employees
No, no.
employed in the community. When they get to retirement, we're going to make sure we take care of them.
Oh, so true. So you better be the one
You
tooting
have
your own
to.
horn there.
You
Oh
have
my God,
to.
that's
It's
beautifully
not
said.
selfish. It's not selfish.
It's a necessity. I love that. I
Absolutely.
love that. Okay, I better like get on the move here before I run out of time and get some more initials in here.
Okay, sure.
LACP. LACP. What's that?
That's a life annuity certified professional.
Okay, that's what it is. I didn't know. That makes sense. But for the audience, what does that mean?
So that is a certification that I received. I didn't really have to study a lot for that one because I have so much experience that I was able to pass the test. Yeah, I could pass that test. So that is a certification that was initiated by my association, which is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors.
Okay.
And it is a designation that basically shows that, we have experience in the tools that are used to help in the retirement and life process. And so that was one I did because I drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I actually have two businesses. I have Leaving in Style, and my other business is Entrepreneurs Insurance Services.
Okay.
So that was my first practice, my first business. I've had that one for 25 years, which beget this one, because my passion over the years has gone towards this space. And
Makes
I,
sense. Makes sense.
but yeah, that one is one that says that I stand, what do they say? We acknowledge a code of ethics,
Yeah.
and that, we have a commitment to serving the client and understanding how to serve that client.
Gotcha, gotcha. I had someone, a associate friend in that I met, an older gentleman. He asked me to look at some of his documents, just to help him out. And it was an annuity. I'm like, I'm not an annuity person, but I know enough to be dangerous. Let me just look at it, right? And most of the time, he kept saying things like, well, if the stock market's not going to hurt me. So I was thinking it probably wasn't true, right? Well, I looked through the papers. It was bought he's 70. He bought this thing like 40, 50 years ago.
Oh
It
my
was
goodness.
good. It literally was that way. I was like, oh my God, just sit back and have a good time here, even because it was promising him his monthly amount for his entire life. I'm like, you're fine. And normally I was like, because you think of them today, right? And I'm like, whoa. So if you're going to buy one 50 years ago. That was one thing I came.
It's so funny because my entree into the financial services industry was working for a company that provided annuities. It was owned by Eli Broad. Everybody knows Eli Broad. They don't know they know him. Well, he's passed away, but he was the B in Kaufman and Broad Homes, or KB Homes.
I knew that I
Yep,
I knew
everybody
I
knows.
could not place it, but I'm like, wait a minute, I know that name. Why do I know it? I know KB Holmes. Okay.
Yes. So he made his millions building homes and his billions providing these annuities. So, I've heard working for the companies on the inside, and that was one of the nations. We were like number one when I was there, one of the largest companies. There's that pros and cons of what's good and what's bad, and there's a lot. There's over 1,000 insurance companies in this country. So that means that there's tens of thousands of different types of products.
Yeah. And you're absolutely correct. Some good, some not. Everything
Exactly.
is about discernment and applicable to your specific situation. That's why
Exactly.
we can't ask ChatGPT to answer these life questions. We
No,
just can't. Okay, I'm not
absolutely.
even going to go there. I got to get to
Okay.
another set of initials. I'm not even going to let myself get on that. Okay.
Okay.
I'll save that for next week when I ramble on Lori's special Thanksgiving Day. Okay. We
Hmm.
got a CLTC. That's C as in cat, Sadie. CLTC.
Yes. That is certified long-term care professional.
Oh,
Yes.
tell us about
So
that.
years ago, I used to teach financial management workshops for women. And as a matter of fact, I did it for the Women's Business Center out here in the Inland Empire 20 years ago, 21 years ago. And what the entire, I didn't create the program, I just purchased it because I thought it was really good. But the statistics in this program were talking about the likelihood of women as caregivers, the percentage of women that don't have enough of retirement because they were maybe stay-at-home moms, or maybe they left the workforce for an amount of time to become stay-at-home moms. So it's a lot of different statistics on how we as women will see retirement differently than men.
Okay.
And one of the big pieces that really disturbed me was the long-term care piece. Because when statistically speaking, we will outlive our male
I was
counterparts.
thinking about that. Yeah.
So we are the caretakers. And when you take care of someone, you are their long-term care plan. Who's
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
yours? So I've got that certification years ago because I was like, I need to understand this whole space. A lot of it for me is just education. It's not always product based, it's education based. And it's like I really need to understand what the options are and what's available to serve anyone. I'm happy to serve anyone, but I know that women don't get information. And also, they're the ones that are lifting their husbands and caring for the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law and the aunt. and bathing this person and that person. And they're the ones that, after all of that, it ages them and then they become ill.
You know, it's interesting because I just know, as you speak of it, I know so many of my colleagues, associates, friends, neighbors that are taking care of someone, like you said, mother, aunt, husband. Statistically, I think I'm in the high statistics with my surroundings, so I completely understand what you're saying on that. See,
I,
I knew at the very beginning of the show, I said to you, I had an intuitive belief that you had a lot of wisdom. I'm always interested in those that have been down many turns and learned because they have more of different perspectives. And I think it's the different perspectives and the ability to look at things in many multiple ways and see them all encompassing and specific to a situation at the same time is what creates wisdom. And I was dead on with that, dead on with that.
I,
Absolutely.
yeah, I do it for my clients. I'm naturally curious. My husband says nosy. I disagree. You know,
I love that.
I am naturally curious. That's why I watch a lot of documentaries. That's why you're doing the hiking. I'm watching you do it. I say, bless you, more power to you. You know, but I love learning because when I sit and talk to someone, I want to bring resources. How
Yeah.
can I help you? If even if I can't do it, perfect example. I have a client, we're setting up an ESOP for her, which is an employee stock ownership plan. So she will have a guaranteed buyer. She is, I say a raving fan. She cares enough about me to go, why are you bringing these guys in? Why aren't you doing this? World, you can do what they're doing. I said, oh, no, I can't. They've been doing this for 40 years. I want to bring you the best people to do the job. And so a part of this journey of all of those initials and letters is because I'm a natural collaborator. And I want to sit on on the side of the table with my clients and ask questions that they don't know to ask.
I
And
love that.
you
Yeah,
know,
I love that.
that this
Speaking
journey,
of which, I'm going to have you launch right. I'm going to have you
sure,
continue on this. So, on the clients, getting a lot of questions, and I'm noting them, and so I'm answering Tara's, I'm asking Brenda's, everybody right now. They're wanting to know what you advise on. Brenda specifically mentioned the LTC. Another one mentioned business broker referrals or sales or anything. So please spend the next 2 minutes telling, because we got a lot of questions about what they can turn to you for, what you
sure,
advise, how you work. Please just take the forum and help us understand how they can come to you and what they can get from you as
beautiful.
services.
Awesome. So you can reach out to me. I have about a 20-minute questionnaire. It's a business readiness. I use a model that's called a value methodology, a value growth methodology. So it's a business readiness question and a personal readiness, and there is no middle. So you cannot give an average score. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no seven, so you can say I'm average on anything. You're either above where you need to be or you're not. So
Oh,
what I do is I talk to business owners. I take them through this score, this business readiness score. So you can look at, oh, I need to work on X, or I'm good. My branding and my marketing is on. But you talked earlier about businesses not having websites. You know, those are the types of things that we look at. Do I do websites? Absolutely not. But it's really being a true advisor to say, let's look at how ready you are and where you need to start working on the business. And then also the same thing happens with attractiveness. It's going to give you your attractiveness scores, is either high or low. And I can tell you what your score is going to be. So that's done both. I have one for business and personal. So you could do one, you can do both. It doesn't matter. But this is what I do. So once you have the business scoring done and I understand where you are, there are different they're called gates. So we're looking at creating the awareness and discover gate. We're discovering what's important to you. And then once we have what's important to you, then we have to look at how you prepare. And let's say your plan is to be in the business for the next 30 years. Cool. What does that look like?
yeah.
So you start preparing. And then there's a decide. You decide, am I going to continue this business or am I going to leave the business? I have a lady that I met with a couple weeks ago. She goes, I am done. June 2026. I go, whoa, 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 wait a minute. June, that's only 6 months from now. Are we really done? Let's talk about it. because the reality is that if you're truly done in 6 months, do you have everything in order to be, are you ready? So this
Yeah.
score will really help you. And then, if it's something you want me to help you with, I can help you. If you want someone else to help you, someone else can help you. If you need a referral, I love making introductions. That's my currency because when I can make an introduction and say, you know what, let me introduce you to Lori. Lori's amazing. That's my currency with Lori as well, right? So it's not, I'm not a hard sell person, but I am, I am a coach. So I am looking at where your strengths and weaknesses are, but I'm looking at it from a business exit mindset as opposed to maybe other coaches.
Yeah, that's perfect. And so Sadie has put your information in continuously and continues to do so.
Awesome.
Guys, reach out. I mean, this it's been amazing. And one of my favorite things you said, and a repeat, Sadie, I saw you said you need a repeat. And I might if I mess up your words, you correct me, but it's it's one thing to think you have something you do not. And
Absolutely.
that to me is I talk about it in different terms. I love the way you put it. I always say reality, and I always tell people that I have never seen anything good come out of delusional ignorance.
I like that.
I said that after I was sitting in a business meeting and the owners were yelling against each other, husband and wife fighting, and I was like, okay, now that we got that, and that's where it came from. But I love yours because it's really, really clear, and I think that another thing I want to say as I end here is that another thing that we spoke about, but maybe it wasn't so front of mind, is being in business isn't just, well, where's my social media? Where's this? Or even where the numbers? It's a holistic look at everything around you. And I tell people a lot of times that business is like the body, mind, and spirit. It's not one angle, it's holistic. And if you imagine yourself walking the halls of a big corporation and seeing all those departments and people, you have the same in your business. It's not just you have the activities, you have the need for those activities.
Amen. I wrote a book on that very topic because it's like people don't understand where their professionals and experts can help them. They think, oh, my CPA is all knowing. I'm like, your CPA is not all knowing.
No, just
You
tax,
know,
just tax. That's it. That's it.
that's
And
it.
oh God, I'm gonna have you back on because we're out of time
Okay.
because I gotta have you back on because that is another thing where I talk about staying in your own lane. Oh my God. Okay, I have to say thank you, Denise. Thank you so much. This and the chat's been going crazy. You can take a minute to glance at it. It has been going just crazy. I couldn't even catch everything in it.
Oh, wow.
This has really inspired a lot of conversation amongst the audience. I think this has been such a healthy and rewarding discussion on so many angles, and you shared so much wisdom. Thank you for coming
It
on
is
the show
my
today.
pleasure. Definitely.
So I have to say to my frequent flyers that are here all the time, thank you for being here. Sadie, as always, is staying after we click off in a second, and she's going to keep it live so you can make sure you get Janice's information in the chat. So please do. And if you were new to the show, hey, yes, it's fun. You got to come visit us again. And remember, next week it's Lori talking. And if you don't have answers or questions for me to answer, I'm going to tell you my philosophy about life, and you know how that is. So it's a warning right now. I wrote about 10 things, man. I can go for a friggin' hour on my life philosophy, business and life. So you better get out your questions. I love playing on small biz talk. If you can't have fun, don't do it. That's my theory all the time. But I must
Yes.
say goodbye. So thank you for watching Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Thank you, Denise. Thank you so much. And I
My
will see
pleasure.
everybody next week. Bye bye.
Bye, Lori.
Bye-bye.
All righty, guys. We know the drill. If you're a regular frequent flyer with us, I'm going to put in our info over here so everyone can catch up. I'm going to redrop information because I know there was a lot of activity in the chat. So if there's one particular thing that you need, please let me know so I can drop that down in for you. I know that those blocks for the webinars take up big chunks in there. So let me just redrop some things in here, how to contact our guest today because I know we found her very informational today. I know I did. So definitely click away, sign up, register, launch all those URLs. And once again, if you need anything in particular, let me know and I will drop that down in there for you. I'm just going to put myself on mute, okay?